I chose to apply for the school because I want to use the skills I will learn in a career in filmmaking. I learned about this school while I was at YWAM in Pismo Beach. I learned that David Cunningham had a movie studio, and then I found him. I found what the work he did, and then I went to the University of Nations and looked at the school and thought it would be a perfect opportunity to work uh, with other people, learning how to do films and work in filmmaking, and then the possibility of the internship at the end would be a great step into working into the industry, or possibly even working with David Cunningham himself. Um, I just believe that this school would be the most perfect place to grow my talents in a godly setting. I hope to use my knowledge and skills that I learned during the school to help me get a deeper understanding of the other departments of making a film, and in lieu of making me a better employee, I understand every job needs to kind of understand the other jobs involved, because the editor needs to know how the script is working and how the director wants it to look, and they're not isolated departments, they all need to work together. And I hope to gain a better understanding of that while taking this school. I hope to use this information as, a way of getting a professional job, and as the internship is going to be an excellent way of getting my career started to get me some actual industry experience, and that is almost necessary in today's market. In 10 years, I hope to be working for a studio company, working full-time, possibly as a fully sustainable job, so I could be out on my own in the world, help making movies for God's kingdom. I hope to be working on the creative aspects of the film, but I don't mind working on the technical aspects too, such as like sound, lighting, and editing, and the more technical things. I enjoy being part of a group, so I like don't actually like being the director as much, but I don't mind learning how. I know that everything needs to work together, so I like working with a group, and if we're all dedicated to the project, I want it to be working with a Christian studio, because if we're all working together and we all have Christian values, then the movie will come out with Christian value hidden in it, because I think that is what this world needs the most, is the Christian values that are not beating you over the head, but people are being impacted by them anyway because they're picking them up in the movie because they like this movie, and not because we're trying to force anything on them. That's something we learned while we were on our outreach in Africa, in Nicaragua. So that's the best way of reaching people, is to hide the fact that you're trying to do it in a way that you still are loving on the people, or like through your message of the movie, but you're not making it overtly obvious that of what you're trying to do. I am pursuing a career in filmmaking. I attended a 4-year college called the Academy of Art University in San Francisco, and I got my bachelor's degree in animation and visual effects. But when I tried to apply for jobs, the competition was so stiff that I could not find work in that area. I still aim to work on film. I enjoy movies actually a lot, to the point where I sometimes will catch myself critiquing the movie on how things were set up, how things were said, cuts, and different aspects of the movie, and from a technical point, rather than trying to enjoy the movie, simply because I catch things and see them from my schoolwork, that it's trained me in a way to look at movies and look at film in a certain way, and it just makes it. Actually had some movies that I just couldn't watch them due to that fact, but I actually would love watching film. I love the process that goes in there, so I would love to work on making this a career job. As a Christian, I see my role in the industry as being a light in the darkness. That was something one of the preachers at my church used to always say, that the light shines brightest when it's in the darkness. And that's something we learned when we were in Africa. When one of my leaders had to get into his room when the power was out, he lit a single match, and it was actually bright enough to fill up the whole room. And I believe that the film industry is a very dark place. That there's not a lot of bad morals, bad values are in the wrong place, and there's a lot of horror stuff out there and scariness. It's like, And I believe that that's my role, is to step into that industry and be a light for the Lord in a very dark place. I mean, I don't mind working for the secular and being a light and impacting the people around me that way. But I believe the best bet would be to work with a Christian studio so that I can add my light to theirs and we can really make an impact over a large area. I mean, all through YWAM, people kept telling me I'm talented or I'm gifted at things, and it hit me that what am I using those talents for? Why am I gifted? And what's the purpose? And I feel my purpose as a Christian is to go into media and be an influence for the Lord, to help further the Lord's kingdom to the people who don't know, and the people who do know, who could use a boost, who could have some good influences on their life. I can't say I have a favorite director, because when I watch movies I tend to watch the movie for the movie, and I don't actually always focus on who made it. But I have to say, if I had to pick somebody, Gore Verbinski, who did the Pirates of the Caribbean series, simply because I watched the documentaries and watched the stuff about how they made the movie and how he did it, and it was like all these different problems coming up, and they still came out with a phenomenal movie. I really enjoyed the movie. I mean, the characters, the scenes, everything that the director did or organized, I mean, all this stuff, and it just seemed like he came out with a great film. And, I mean, it was just one of my top favorite movies, is the Pirates of the Caribbean series. And so, that's all I can say, is that I like him because I like his movies. I don't know a lot more about other directors. My favorite movie is called Inkheart, and it stars Brendan Fraser as a father who has the ability to bring storybook characters out of books that he reads when he reads them aloud. But the catch is that whenever he reads something aloud, someone else from our world has to go into the book world whenever the character comes out. And when he first discovers his ability, his wife gets stuck in a book, and he pulls a book villain into the world. And it's his story of him trying to find that book again, and just to release his wife from the book, all the while being thwarted by the bad guy. This movie didn't have a lot of really great technical graphics or a whole lot of action and special effects, but it was really, really well done. There was other characters that had been brought in by another guy who had the same ability, but he couldn't do it as well. There's magic to a degree. There was all this crazy stuff, and the story was so good. A lot of the different characters were really well branded out. And what's strange is that a lot of other people didn't like this film. I really enjoyed it because I understand there's a balance between how much graphics you have in it and how good your story is. Your story will suffer if there's more graphics. There's less graphics, your story will be a little bit better, but it's not quite as enjoyable. I really liked how they balanced it out. It was a really nice story that flowed along the way. There was twists and turns, and you didn't quite understand what was going on. The characters were acted well. And it was just, I found it very enjoyable. It found that hard line between entertainment and storytelling, and it met very well. And, I mean, all the different effects that they had were actually really well done, even though they didn't have a humongous budget to do it. And there's only been a few movies that I've seen that can kind of have that same balance. A lot of times you see that, like, blockbuster movies are all huge and great on graphics and all, like, really fancy effects, but their storyline is pretty basic. So this is one of my favorite movies because it was a good story that found the balance between entertainment and storytelling.